Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be about Russian pagan dolls, about Russian traditional dolls. No, we're not going to talk about Matryoshka. I will have a video on that later on someday. Today we're going to talk about dolls that look like this, like this one. I will say a little bit about the history of making such dolls, about roles that they played in everyday life, about the rules of making such a doll, about different types of such dolls that we have, and I will make a doll in this video for you so you would see the whole process. Now, I'm not really good at making such dolls. I don't know whether my doll will end up being pretty or ugly. We will see that in the end of this video. So, let's start. First of all, I have to say that history of making such dolls dates back to the times when Russia was still a pagan country. A little historical remark here. Russia was officially baptized in the year of 988. Yeah, so you can understand that actually the tradition of making such dolls is very, very old. And here I should also say that as Christian religion was something imposed on to the population, many pagan beliefs sort of intertwined into Christian religion, and we still have them. Yeah, like if you look deeper, if you would analyze our today's Christian holidays, you will find many things that are still left from our pagan past. As you can understand, people back then believed that they were surrounded by different types of gods, different types of spirits. Spirits were believed to be everywhere. Like the house where people lived in had their own spirit. The barn where they kept their grain had their different spirit. The place where the cattle was staying also had its own spirit. There were spirits of the lakes, of the forests, of the fields. Like spirits were everywhere. Some of them were good and helped people, and other spirits were believed to be evil, naughty, and very often were believed to to make people's lives more difficult. So people tried to find some sort of protection from those evil things surrounding them. And and that's probably when they start making such dolls to protect themselves from evil spirits, to have something like an amulet, a talisman to protect themselves from those spirits. Now, all the dolls that we have can be divided into three groups. Like the first group would be dolls that are used for different religious rituals. Then the second group would be those dolls that are used for protection as amulets. And the third group would be those dolls that are simply used for kids to play with, to amuse your kids. So, what about the first type? Dolls that are made for different rituals. Let me give you an example here. We still have a holiday that is called Maslenitsa, and it's a holiday that takes place in the end of winter, a week before the beginning of 40 days of fasting before Easter. Actually, I have two videos on Maslenitsa that you can watch on my channel. I will place a link for you in the description of this video so you would find it easier. So during this holiday, which lasts for the whole week, people make a big figure of winter. It looks like a big lady. Usually it's beautifully dressed, and it is placed on a pole somewhere in the squares of the villages or in the parks of the cities. Usually it's placed where people gather to celebrate Maslenitsa. So people have fun around it, they dance, they sing, they have different types of performances there, and on the last day of Maslenitsa, this figure is burned down. Like here I have a little figure of Maslenitsa that I made last year myself for my kids' celebration of Maslenitsa in his school. So We have similar figures, only big ones standing somewhere in the cities. Of course, nowadays the tradition of burning a figure like this is more for amusement and also for, not to forget our traditions, to pass them on for a younger generation. Yeah. So when we burn Maslenitsa, we sort of banish the winter, ask it to go away. Yeah. What about the dolls that we had for protection and also for achieving different types of wishes? Wish maker dolls. Well, for example, I'm just going to give you different types of dolls and show them and explain what they were for. So, for example, we have a doll like this that is called Krupinichka, and sometimes it is called Zirnushka, but anyway, its name stems from the word grain. Such dolls were made in the families every autumn. Um, Mothers took fresh grain and sew it into a bag, into a pillow or a bag that is filled with grain. Now, usually they used buckwheat, but it could be any type of grain that they wanted. They could be a mixture of grains. So, actually, this doll looks like a bag with grain that is dressed like a person, like a woman. Such dolls were placed in the house, and its role was to protect the family's welfare so that the family would always be fed, it would have enough money for the food and things like that. And every year, new doll was made. The old doll was taken outside of the house, it was ripped open, and the grain was thrown into the field, into the ground to make it more fertile. Yeah, by the way, this is also made by me for school purposes. When young girls wanted to make their wishes come true, and as you understand, girls usually have a lot of wishes, they made a doll for themselves that is called желанница. We have a Russian word желание that means wish. So this doll was supposed to make wishes come true. They tried to make it as beautiful as possible, and every time they made a wish, they tied a ribbon to its hand and they told her, "Look how beautiful you are, make my wish come true." And yes, they tried to make it her as comfortable as possible, so she would sit somewhere in the girl's room comfortably so that she would be happy and fulfill the girl's wish as soon as possible. Before a baby was born, mother was making a doll, a baby doll, and putting it in his future cradle to wait for the baby to be born. And when the baby was born, this doll was lying there next to him to protect him from different types of spirits and bad eye and things like that. When the couple got married, they were given two dolls joined together that were called неразлучники. It means inseparable. And usually such dolls were made either from one stick, like their hands were made from one stick, wrapped in pieces of clothes, or they were made from one piece of clothes wrapped into shapes of two people together. To make the couple stronger, to make them inseparable, to make them their family strong and loving one. Also, on a wedding day, future wife received a doll that was called Десятиручница. It was made either from straw or from pieces of cloth, pieces of fabric, and it actually had 10 hands. This doll was supposed to be a helper doll. She was supposed to help future wife to cope with all the chores that had to be done. So this doll had two hands for cooking the food, two hands for taking care of the house itself, two hands for taking care of the cattle, then two hands to take care of the kids, and two hands to love the husband. Oh, and whenever the family wanted to have kids, whenever a woman wanted to have kids of her own, she would make a doll, a mother doll with a lot of babies tied up to her to symbolize fertility, like woman's fertility, to bring good luck in having kids. And other dolls that we have are dolls that are called подорожница. Its name symbolizes someone who is with you along the way, who you take with you into your journey. And these dolls were made and were given to a person that was supposed to go on a trip somewhere to keep him safe from, yeah, again, from different spirits, from different type of harm. Making a doll was something special. It was a very special, very sacred process. And it had pretty strict rules for making such a doll, such a protector doll. Usually, dolls were made only by women, by girls, by mothers, by daughters, but not by men. Men were not even allowed to be in the room while the doll was made. Because it was believed that women hold special energy that can protect the bloodline, they protect the family, because women usually took care of everything that had to do with the family, right? They cook food, they make clothes, uh, they take care of the house and the cattle, and they give birth to the kids. So women were sort of passing their energy onto the doll to protect the whole family. Um, Most of the dolls were made from fabric, and it was forbidden to use scissors, knives, and needles while making such a doll. Because, yeah, like it was believed that the fabric that was also handmade by women of the family hold this woman's energy, and if you cut it or if you pierce it, you will spoil the energy, it will become negative, and it will not protect you the way it should. So while such dolls were made, they were made from from ripped pieces of clothes, and people simply wrapped those pieces of clothes in a special way and tied them with threads. So these dolls are not sewn; they are wrapped. The other thing that you probably already noticed is that such dolls don't have faces. Yeah, they have blank faces, usually white. They don't have eyes, noses, mouth. How come? It was very important for the doll not to have a face, because people believe that if the doll would have a face, then evil spirits would get into the doll and harm its owner. So, no faces. And for the same reasons, dolls never had human names. They only had like general names, like a baby doll or a doll that makes wishes, or like other, general names, but never human names. All right, let's move on to the most exciting part of today's video. Let's make the doll. This time I was really lucky to find a set in the shop, a set for making the doll at home. This actually makes my life much, much easier because I don't have to buy different types of different pieces of fabric separately, pieces of lace. Everything is here in the set already, like all the materials that I will need for making the doll. So today I'm going to make a doll that is called Makashkudesnica, and it's a doll that is supposed to help to wave threads, to make fabric, to sew something, to make embroidery, and that kind of work. So let's open the set and see what they have inside. Okay, so this thing has a pretty detailed instruction with steps how to do everything. I think it shouldn't be difficult to make it with such a detailed instruction. Then that's for the apron. I already embroidered it previously. It actually took me 1.5 hours to do this. As pieces of thread, different types of fabric that is going to be used. Yep, and some lace. Okay, let's start. So first of all, I need to cut my fabric into smaller pieces according to the instruction. Now I have to make a body for my doll. I will be using my old pillowcase, but actually you can use a newspaper or a cardboard or anything else that you have at hand. Now we are making a head from a little piece of cotton. Wrap it around in our white fabric. Tie everything together. And yes, we need a little bit more of cotton to make our doll beautiful, to make her sexy. Now we need to tie her underskirt. After that, we're gonna tie a piece of fabric that's going to be her shirt. The next step is to actually fix her upper skirt. And now it's time to make her hands. Her hands and her arms. Now I'm tying her hands to her sleeves. And yes, I will have to put a little bit of cotton into the sleeves to make them fluffier and to hold the form. And now we can attach her arms to the doll. We are actually going to tie them to her head, to her neck. Now we are going to tie her double apron to her waistline. And the next step is very important. We have to put on her headpiece, the piece of red cloth on her head. We need to fix the lace on her forehead and to cover her head with a piece of red cloth. Our doll is almost ready. Now we need to add a few finishing touches. We need to add a few details to her image. Now we are rolling tiny little pieces of fabric that she will be holding under her belt, because as you can remember, she is the one responsible for helping with sewing, so she does need some fabric to carry with herself. Now we're gonna make the belt itself from threads. Let's tie our little pieces of fabric to the doll. The last thing left for us to do is to make a little spindle for her that she will be holding in her hand. I will be using a piece of toothpick for that and leftovers of the thread that I have. Our spindle is ready. Let's attach it to her hand. Alright everyone, 1 hour later we have a doll ready. Yes, I guess it took me about an hour, maybe a little bit more, to wrap it up. And I cannot say that it was easy. It was actually uh, quite a test, to wrap it the right way and to make it look nice and beautiful. So that's what she looks like. She has this beautiful belt over here and beautiful apron, double apron, right? She's wearing a skirt like this and a shirt, and her head is covered with a piece of clothes like this, decorated with a lace over here at her forehead, and she's holding this little thing over here for making thread. Yep. So that's our doll. Now you know how to make Russian pagan doll. Now I know how to make a Russian pagan doll. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching me. Don't forget to subscribe. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.